What you're watching is more than just a truck on a highway. It's the beginning of something significant, an engineering journey in motion. Today, a massive bridge girder is on the move, but this isn't just cargo. This is one of the most important parts of a bridge, its backbone. Without girders, there is no bridge, and without careful planning, there is no safe way to move them. Bridge girders are long, heavy, and carefully engineered to bear the weight of traffic, wind, and time. But before they're installed, they must be transported. That's what makes this scene so impressive. What looks like a slow journey is actually a highly calculated operation involving multiple engineering disciplines. The girder being carried here stretches longer than most trucks. It's so long, in fact, that regular transport trailers can't handle it. Instead, a specialized multi-axle low loader is being used. This kind of vehicle is designed to distribute the weight of the girder evenly across the road. It keeps pressure off fragile road surfaces, prevents sharp turns, and makes sure the girder arrives without damage. But this journey didn't start on the road. It started weeks, maybe even months ago, with planning. Engineers studied the entire route from the manufacturing yard to the bridge site. Every turn, every slope, every overhead wire was mapped. They checked the heights of bridges, the strength of roads, and even the schedules of city traffic to avoid congestion. Because moving a load like this is like moving a building. It takes space, timing, and teamwork. Notice the vehicles traveling alongside the trailer. These are escort vehicles, sometimes called pilot cars. Their job is to lead, follow, and protect the load. They manage traffic, alert the driver to hazards, and stay in constant communication with a central team. If a road becomes too narrow, they guide the driver carefully. If a vehicle gets too close, they redirect it. Nothing is left to chance. Even the speed of the transport is calculated. It may look slow, but this pace prevents stress on the structure. Sudden braking or sharp turns could damage the girder. And when you consider the cost and importance of this component, you realize slow and steady isn't just smart, it's essential. Let's not forget the driver. Piloting a load this massive requires not only skill, but also nerves of steel. The driver must be aware of every inch of the girder, every bump in the road, every gust of wind. This isn't just driving, it's a dance between machine and road, a careful balance of motion and control. And all this is just to get the girder to the site. It hasn't even been installed yet, but in many ways, this is one of the most crucial parts of the project. Because without safe transport, there is no bridge. As we follow this journey, think of the complexity behind what seems so simple. As the journey continues, we move from the open highway into more complex terrain. The road narrows, turns become tighter. Urban areas begin to appear, and now the challenge intensifies. Moving a girder of this size through busy environments is one of the hardest parts of transport logistics. You're not just driving, you're navigating a structural giant. One mistake here could cause severe damage not just to the girder, but to buildings, power lines, street signs, and more. That's why route coordination is a science. Weeks before this video was even recorded, civil engineers, traffic officers, and transport experts sat in planning rooms discussing every road on this route. Where should the vehicle stop? Which turns are too sharp? Should any traffic lights be temporarily removed? Do street lights need to be elevated or turned off? If needed, city officials even approve partial road closures to clear the path. And that's what makes transporting girders different from ordinary haulage. It's not just about reaching the site. It's about making sure everything along the way is prepared for the arrival. Look at how the girder stretches beyond the truck's cab and tail. It's not a simple load sitting in a container. This is an exposed, load-bearing structure. If the girder sways or tilts too far, it could crack or worse. That's why the driver relies so heavily on the escort vehicles and spotters on foot, especially when turning. Each rotation of the tire is calculated, each curve is approached with caution. And look at how slow they take it. That's not a delay, that's control. One wrong pivot and millions of dollars in infrastructure could be lost. One moment of distraction could mean a complete do-over. That's why these drivers are often among the most experienced professionals in the industry. You might also notice the slight elevation changes along the route. Even a gentle incline can challenge this transport. That's because the girder's center of gravity must remain balanced. If the front lifts to high, it strains the rear axle. If the back drags, it stresses the front coupling. It's a balancing act, one that must remain stable for miles. Now zoom in on the community. Look at the onlookers, children, workers, engineers watching the girder pass. Too many. It's just a large object on wheels. But to those who understand, it's an engineering marvel in motion. It's rare to see the bones of a bridge moving through a city like this. And every eye watching knows something historic is underway. And even with all this preparation, the unexpected can still happen. A sudden weather shift, a vehicle stalling on the route, a tree limb hanging too low. That's why a quick response team follows the convoy, ready with tools, instructions, and even structural reinforcements just in case something needs adjusting mid-journey. As we move into the next phase of the journey, what you're watching is no longer just a truck and a girder. It's a live operation involving dozens of coordinated hands and eyes. At this stage, we enter more technical zones, overpasses, intersections, sloped roads, and even narrow bridges that must accommodate this massive vehicle. This isn't just about steering. It's about orchestrating a mobile construction site, moving at the speed of safety. Look closely at the rear escort. That's not just a support vehicle, it's a guiding system. In many cases, it's equipped with steering controls for the back wheels of the trailer. That means while the driver steers from the front, another operator controls the tail end to counterbalance each turn. This is what we call multi-axle articulation, a brilliant engineering solution that lets long loads maneuver like a ballet dancer through concrete jungles. And what about the structural integrity of the girder itself? It's still under constant stress. As the vehicle moves, every vibration, every pothole, every speed bump is a shock to the steel and concrete structure. That's why these trailers have hydraulic suspension systems, absorbing most of that impact to prevent microcracks or long-term fatigue. We also can't ignore the role of the civil engineers monitoring this move remotely or on-site. They're not just watching the girder, they're tracking everything: load distribution, tilt angles, axle temperature, wind resistance, and the real-time positioning via GPS. Even the time of day is calculated to avoid high traffic hours or changes in temperature that could expand or contract the materials in motion. Now shift your attention to the local terrain. Some roads were never designed for a structure this long to pass through. That's why temporary road modifications are common: corners widened, medians removed, or barriers lifted, all to make way for this one load. Once the girder passes, these roads are often restored within hours. Notice the safety crew walking ahead. That's no ordinary walk. They're the first responders of this operation, clearing pedestrians, watching for overhead lines, and constantly communicating with the lead vehicle through radio. One misstep from a pedestrian or cyclist could lead to catastrophic consequences. Their vigilance is what keeps this journey human safe and structurally sound. What you're seeing is not only about infrastructure, it's about discipline. It's a lesson in slow motion that every second of patience, every inch of control, and every coordinated decision has a cost and a reward. Because when the girder finally arrives, there are no excuses. It must be perfect, untouched, unstressed, ready for installation. And while this may seem like overkill for one structural component, remember, a bridge is only as strong as its weakest element. If this girder fails, the whole bridge could fail. That's why this journey matters. And now, after countless turns, kilometers of careful navigation, and hours of controlled motion, the girder arrives at the construction site. There's no cheering crowd, no dramatic applause. But make no mistake, this is a victory, a quiet, calculated triumph of engineering, planning, and human effort. As the long vehicle pulls in, the atmosphere changes. Everything slows down even more. The site is on alert. A structure weighing tens of tons is about to be offloaded, not like a package, but like a precision instrument. One wrong tilt, one unstable ground point, one sudden shift, that's all it takes to undo everything that has come before. You'll notice the crane teams already in place, waiting. These aren't just any cranes, these are hydraulic lifting monsters, engineered to raise the girder without flexing it beyond tolerance. Slings are positioned with scientific accuracy, load points are double-checked. And every crew member wears the weight of responsibility on their helmets. This is where millimeter precision matters. Because at this point, the girder is not just being moved, it's being transitioned. From a state of motion to a state of purpose. The atmosphere is intense. Operators move in near silence, relying more on gestures and prearranged signals than on words. Why? Because one word too late is a disaster too soon. In operations like this, communication is a language of discipline. And then the lift begins. Slowly, carefully, coordinated. You can almost feel the tension in the air as steel wires tighten, pulleys engage, and the girder rises. Not a single crew member breaks focus, their eyes stay locked on angles, alignment, deflection. This is choreography at the intersection of strength and balance. Once the girder is laid onto its temporary supports, a moment of release fills the air. Not a sigh of relief, but a breath of readiness. Because soon, this girder will be joined with others. Together, they'll form a bridge that carries lives, dreams, and generations of stories across rivers, highways, and cities. And this is the part most people never see, the part behind the bridge. The part before the ribbon is cut and cars begin to pass. The invisible backbone of civil engineering. So the next time you drive across a bridge, remember, it didn't just appear. It traveled, it struggled, it demanded every ounce of care and calculation to reach that place. And behind it all, there were people tired, focused, proud who brought that girder home. Because in civil engineering, the greatest success is often unspoken, getting something heavy safely from one place to the next and making it last for decades. That's the story of every girder, every bridge, and every builder.